Hello! This is episode 2 of my The Roottrees Are Dead playthrough. And you might notice that the way I'm speaking doesn't necessarily reflect how my little avatar is speaking. And that's because I recorded the entirety of this episode without realizing that my microphone was turned off. So I'm dubbing over my own playthrough. I'm going to be honest, I've watched a little bit of the start of this, and I don't remember what I talked about because I recorded an additional hour of content after this. Right now, I think I'm discussing where we are. We've been looking into Jim Roottree, Carl Roottree's brother, and or cousin rather, and kind of figuring out his family line. So we know about his two children, Wolf Roottree, his younger son, and his as of yet unnamed daughter. I think my current thought process with his daughter is that I don't know that there's the CD in the evidence, because as you can see, there's 5 evidence that I haven't looked at yet. So we have not yet determined who that might be. But I have deducted or made a deduction that Wolf is the younger child, and so he should be on that side. We figured out who Raina's husband is. We, I think, are talking a bit about like what blood relatives are versus these external relatives that are supplementary information and kind of remove names as you discover who they are. So like Brenda, whereas like Carl and Jim are part of the main family line, and so those necessitate the main central plot. And I'm just kind of examining how much space there is. We have like this central family line, and then there's kind of the branching aspects of the tree. And I'm talking a bit about how my plan is to probably figure out some of these extra bits, and not necessarily focus exclusively on the stars, because that's information that I'm going to be able to glean a little bit more easily than I would some of these unknown variables. And starting at the top of the tree is something that I'm thinking about. Doing, the rest of Jim's line is what I'm thinking about, and just kind of sussing out what direction it is that I want to go. One of the things I also talk about is I know about Elias and Gwyneth's status as the matron and patron of the family, but because I can utilize that knowledge to identify people that I'm not aware of very clearly, I'm going to leave them unfilled for the time being. I'm not actually going to put in their occupations, because though I need 6 additional blood relatives to get to the next stage in the plot, more or less, I already have a lot of information to work with, and I don't really want to overwhelm myself with stuff. As you can see, I already have 5 pieces of evidence that I haven't looked at, and so we're going to go ahead and start. I found a picture of a Christmas card from Jim and Diamond to their fan club in 1996, 2 years ago. The description said it included a picture of his son Wolf listening to his parents' latest music. I was a little disappointed to discover that it wasn't a picture of his parents and only him, but, at least we do now have a picture identifying Wolf. I then noticed that, oh, wait, there's a picture, an album with their faces on it. So, it's not that big of a deal. I look at the label that's on here. As seen in MMM, only the great-grandson of Elias Roottree could make disco this sweet. And I notice the name, and I'm thinking, ooh, MMM is probably like one of the publications that I could start searching in, and I'm going to need to look up this person's name specifically. So I'm going to write down Peter's name. I'm looking at what it is I've written down so far. We can see that I'm talking about Jim. We also have not learned much about Ernie, but we do have a little bit of information about his cousin. So I'm going to move some of the information that I've got in the origins over to this cousin's page at some point. I think I do. What's funny is I haven't read the text yet in the description of this album, and Peter's name is explicitly mentioned, but past me does not know this yet. And then I read, Rolling On Down to the City was barely a top 20 hit for a few weeks in 1979. Just kidding. Yeah, there I discovered the name. According to the liner note, it satirizes how a part of society was content to remain indifferent to economic inflation and civil unrest in the Middle East, unless pop culture tricked them into caring. Somewhat ironically, listeners didn't seem to pay attention to the lyrics enough to trick them into caring. Instead, most of its play came from roller discos. Because it was such a product of its time, it doesn't get much play anymore, even on stations that play oldies. Maybe that's why you'd never heard of it before. This image is from an auction for a sealed copy. It has a sticker that says, only the great-grandson of Elias Roottree could make disco this sweet. It is credited to Peter Janowitz from MMM. Music and lyrics by Jim Roottree, vocals by Jim Roottree and Diamond LaRue. Jim Roottree is on the notable Roottrees list in your evidence. He will be marked on the chart with a star. The lyrics of the song contain no clues. I'm reading a little bit faster, just because I don't remember how fast I read stuff. We're rolling on down to the city. Saturday night and you're quite a sight. The world might be burning, but I'm feeling right. Making ends meet to pay rent and eat. We can't afford gas, so we skate in the street. The guys all rush to say I'm pretty. Ladies blush and find me so witty. They're out of luck tonight. What a pity. We're rolling on down to the city. On wheels we glide with you by my side. Inflation is rising, but so is our pride. Pick our own fate. Make love, not hate. They fight overseas, but we'd rather skate. The guys all rush to say that I'm pretty. Ladies blush and find me so witty. They're out of luck tonight. What a pity. We're rolling on down to the city. Politicians at large are all hopeless. The bankers in charge are all clowns, but parties sell better than protests. So signs up while we boogie down. The guys all rush to say that I'm pretty. Ladies blush and find me so witty. They're out of luck tonight. What a pity. We're rolling on down to the city. And then I noticed that you could play the song, which is so cute. I love this. I adore this. Well, I am going to talk all over it, but maybe I'll shut up a little bit more this time. So we're going to look up Peter Janowitz. We're going to see that he's a music critic, and now we've discovered Modern Music Monthly. This is one of the periodicals that we'll now discover. MMM is an abbreviation for Modern Music Magazine from the 40s, 80s. It went to business due to high competition from much more major publications. Forgot to read the previous page. Sorry. He's a music critic. You see him mentioned on a fan website. So now we're going to look up Peter. Peter wrote a great many reviews and articles for Modern Music Monthly. You don't see anything relevant anywhere in the first few pages, and there are too many results to look through them all. If you're looking for some specific album or artist names, you may have better luck searching for those instead. So now we're going to look up Jim and Diamond. A review and interview from 1979 titled A Reluctant Hitmaker, Jim goes into his first band. Until a few years ago, Diamond and I were in C and J and D with my cousin and his ex. Clark never knew his father, so our grandpop insisted that he spend time with my dad and me. So this is who I think that might be, because his first wife is unclear. Diamond and Jane, on the other hand, are actually sisters. So our four of us had a cutesy family band thing going on. Not our finest hour. Regardless, when Diamond walked in on Clark... Oops. Yeah, so I've decided that this is Clark Rafferty. And I'm like, Rafferty? That's interesting. He's not like a Roottree. So that must mean something, right? And that's when I'm like, nope, it's not. I don't understand. So I just am like, no, maybe I need more information before I can make this deduction. All right, so not our finest hour. Regardless, when Diamond walked in on Clark in bed with her youngest sister, everything exploded. No more family band. I'm obviously reading the stuff up ahead first. Yeah, I think like Clark is going to have first been married to Jane. Because that's the name that I'm looking for. And so now I'm like, oh, the youngest LaRue. The only thing Clark and I had in common was music, but even then we never agreed on what it should be. He was always more interested in catchy tunes, something you'd hum a week later. I've been told Rollin' is like that, but that wasn't my goal. When he called me up and said he liked it, I took it as a sign I was going in the wrong direction musically. That made him laugh, but I'm trying to make art. I don't mind saying any of this because he'd agree. For the most of the decade, he was a mess, but he's a lot happier now. He started Raffer Tunes, which I note, and he's a much better jingle writer than songwriter. One of the benefits of our famous family is a massive company willing to be a client. That's also how my father was connected to Roottree. And I think, ooh, interesting. So that likely means that his father is in advertising. All of his old ad campaigns were hung on the walls over the record player, but I was never interested. I just went straight for the music. I guess Clark was paying more attention. So yeah, now I'm just discussing things about like, oh, that might mean that Carl's father is an advertisement. I don't think I commit to it yet. But I'm discussing like aspects of his father. I don't entirely recall what I'm doing here, but I do know that I'm going to look up Raffertoons next. Or I'm going to look up C and J and D. I don't remember what I do. But I am going to write down Raffertoons. Oh, no, I'm looking up Clark Roottree to see if maybe I can figure out... Yeah. I remember doing this. I'm convinced that Clark's last name should be Roottree, and that it's unfeasible that his connection to the Roottrees is because his mother was a Roottree and married. Spoilers, I suppose. Yeah, unfortunately, I possess knowledge of the future. So yeah, Clark Roottree, first name Clancy, had an affair. Well, never mind. I'll read it next time I open my notes. A website about Raffertoons, Clark Rafferty LaRue's advertising. And I go, oh, Rafferty LaRue. That's interesting. He's a compound name, and I need to look up Rafferty LaRue now. And so I look up Clark, and I do see that it's Rafferty. And I'm like, oh, okay, duh. That just means that his last name is the name of his father. And he is a musician. That's what occupation he has in terms of the evidence that I'm finding at the time. Advertising firm. And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, it's an advertising firm, not a musician. On it is an about page, and you find a picture labeled the inspiration for the famous Super Bowl ad campaign. Below it is more detail. Clark was in a department store getting a family portrait with his wife and children, and when his wife was trying to get his youngest Katrina to calm down for the picture, he had the idea of the Roottree Super Bowl ad. The photo is now in my evidence. Drinking some coffee. So these are his children. We know that this is Katrina, his youngest. Rafferty LaRue. That means his spouse is a LaRue. And now I am kind of thinking about, like, what does that mean? So this, now I'm like, oh, obviously this is one of the women in the Roottree family because she married into the Raffertys and took on that name. I also am thinking about who his father might be. It might be a Rafferty. And who his wife might be at this time. Because obviously he had an affair with the LaRues. So this is the family portrait. You found a photo of the Raffertoons website. It was labeled the inspiration for the famous ad campaign. Clark was in a department store getting a family portrait with his wife and children while his wife was trying to get Katrina, his youngest, to calm down for the Super Bowl, or for the picture he had for an idea for the Super Bowl tree. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever. I read that wrong. But you can get the idea. I'm trying to read fast. I'm sorry. So now I'm going to look up the Rafferty LaRues. I think I am, but maybe not yet. I am going to give the younger girl who looks upset her portrait, and I'm going to give her the occupation of being a student, because that's what it seems all of the children have. And now I'm going to give him his picture, and I'm going to change it to advertising because I recall... as you can see, don't forget, always use a person's most recent occupation, not like just a occupation. I ascribed the other picture to his daughter, and now I'm going to look up some more stuff. I'm going to see if maybe I could find something about like the Roottree Super Bowl ad, but I'm looking up this stuff. So there's Jessica Rafferty LaRue, and because that's the only compound name for a woman, we feel confident that we can find these three. So they're our first, or rather our second group of three. These three entries are correct, and we figured out Clark, Jessica, and Katrina Rafferty LaRue. And we figured out that Diamond LaRue was correct, and I think Brenda White is correct. Yes, yeah. So we figured out Carl's wife, and we figured out James' wife. But we have not figured out something, and that's that Jane is not locked in. So Jane is not correct in that position. It would have locked in were it true. So I'm like, I see. That's not Jane. Jane is not his first wife. So I'm like, all right, it's probably his second wife. And then it could very well be that his third wife is that. So now, but we don't get into that. A CD from the band called The Fleazies that is only available at their live shows. The credits on the cover say guitars, vocal Candy, bass Nikki, drums Nina. So now I remember that Candy was one of the names that I read out. So I'm going to give James his firstborn Candy Roottree. I'm going to say that she's an artist, or a musician rather, and then put her portrait as well as Wolf's. Or at least I think I put Wolf's in. And I'm thinking a little bit about like the meta here, whether or not I want to fill out all of those. But yeah, anyway, so now we do Jane, and I see that Kim is the only other LaRue. So I'm thinking, okay, I guess it's probable that Kim is who he's married, but I'm not ready to commit yet. I give Diamond that picture, and I'm kind of just trying to figure out, with the information that I have available, what I'm going to do next. So now I'm going to look up C and J and D, which I haven't done yet. A band called C and J&D released one single called These Times. Someone with the username XXXDieHardDazzlerXXX scanned the cover and noted that it cost him over $200 at an auction. Apparently, this was Jim Roottree and Diamond LaRue's first song together. He also mentions that it was performed with Jim's cousin and Diamond's sister, and that it was only somewhat similar to Jim and Diamond's later work. You can't find anything else about XXXDieHardDazzlerXXX, the band or the single, so all that's left to do is add the scan to your evidence. After a blazing fast 35-minute download, the track is also available. So now we're going to look at that. These Times is an old single from folk group C and J&D. You have a scan of the album as well as a recording of the title track thanks to a collector of Jim and Roottree memorabilia. We start playing it. The website also listed the song's credit as music and lyrics by Clark Rafferty and Jim Roottree, backup vocals by the LaRues. On it is a sticker that says folk style songwriting catchy, MMM magazine. That's funny because I know what the actual review is now. The lyrics of the song contain no clues. I don't actually read the lyrics this time, but we can listen to another of the tracks, which is really, really cute. Yeah, that's so funny, the review. Yeah, I decide, I don't need to read the lyrics. If you'd like, you can pause and read them yourself. So now I'm going to look up in the periodicals what I can find out about this band. A section of the magazine called Skip It or Flip It has a short, pithy blurbs about new records. An album called These Times is listed under Skip It column with the following. These Times, a new single by C and J&D, Clark Rafferty, Jim Roottree, and two of the LaRue sisters. Amateurish folk-style songwriting is catchy at times, but ultimately doesn't do anything new. It's very cute that they put that review on the album. So now we look up Jane LaRue. In an article from 1968, you find a small section focusing on young, upcoming talent that Modern Music Monthly predicts will make it big. It is to say this about the LaRues. The LaRue sisters got their start doing session work for the Great Uncle's record label. If you remember any songs from 1960 to 65 that featured the voices of kids, they were probably involved. Back then, they were credited as the Lucky LaRues. Now that he's passed, they've moved on to bigger and better ventures and are going by their full names. Diamond and Jane have been touring with some famous faces ever heard of the Roottrees and are looking to release an album sometime in the next year. Youngest Kim is about to step into a prominent role on Broadway, taking over for one of the children in Oliver. So I'm trying to figure out, maybe I can look up something about Broadway, maybe I could look up something about Oliver, but I also now know that Kim is the youngest LaRue, so we can figure out who it was that Clark ended up sleeping with after he got married to Jane. And now, at this point, I'm going to put Kim LaRue as his wife. And there we have it. Jane, I'm now thinking about how it is I'm going to identify these women. I'm thinking she's blonde because all of her sisters are blonde. But then I'm like, I'm thinking that she's blonde because I'm like, her sisters are blonde, but so is Diamond LaRue. So I'm like, well, maybe it's more likely that, I don't know. I don't remember my rationale here. I just was like, it's clearly more likely that she's brunette because the brunette can't be Diamond because Diamond is blonde, right? And these were the two women on the cover. So she's likely brunette. Now I remember my rationale. I don't know what his first spouse was. We have not yet determined this, so that is just information that's going to be revealed in the future. I give Carl his picture, but I don't put in his occupation. Again, I am not entirely sure, actually, what his job is yet. I do think that it's president number 5, but I'm under the impression that I just don't need to do this quite yet. So now I'm looking at this. I see that on the cover of the album, he has some facial hair, but I'm looking at his eyes specifically. I'm trying to figure out based off of eye color whether or not I can determine who is whom. Because I do have a picture of Clark, and I can figure out from maybe his eye color who is who. So he is kind of like grayish eyes, right? And she, I note that she has blue eyes. But then I look at this portrait and I can see that like one of them has brown, and it's kind of hard to see what color the bearded guy's eyes are. I'm thinking brown, but it's a little difficult to tell. And now I look at the family portrait and I notice that he distinctly has brown eyes. So I'm like, I see. Okay, that guy definitely has brown eyes. Let's just give it to him and see if that's a sufficient relationship to these people. I don't have James locked in yet, though. So I just put that portrait for him because I don't think I have a picture of him otherwise at this point. And at this point, I've pretty much done Jim's family. I have Wolf, I have Candy, I have his wife, and I have the association with Clark. So I've kind of got the LaRues figured out, and I've got those two lines a little bit figured out. We've done a good job. So now it's time to move back onto the matron and patrons, Elias and Gwendolyn. Elias Roottree was voted Watchman of the Year by Business Watch in 1936, and painting of him appears on the cover. The magazine says he was voted Watchman of the Year specifically to recognize the global rollout of 5 pieces. So then I say, oh, wait, you know what? Let's look at this first. You found this advertisement in the Sweet History of Candy. Actually, what am I doing? I don't remember. I don't remember what I'm doing at this point. We'll find out. Oh, right. I'm going to look up Broadway. I'm trying to figure out more information about the LaRues still. So things that I've noted are Great Uncle's record label, the Lucky LaRues, and Broadway with Oliver. I don't entirely recall why I'm looking up this information. Maybe this is just like I'm trying to figure out some leads here. Obviously, Broadway and Oliver yield no results. I'm trying to find out more information about Kim. Don't find anything. So then I'm going to look up the Lucky LaRues. Jane Delvecchio is listed on a Town for Hire site as a wedding singer. Way down in the credentials section of her biography, it mentions she got her start as a young child when she was Jane LaRue of the Lucky LaRues. It also mentions her only contact her agent in the event that you actually wish to hire her, and that any and all inquiries about her past or her sister would be ignored. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a little bit about Jane, since she apparently remarries and has a child. So I look up her name, it yields the same results. Obviously, this is a pseudonym, or she remarried, and that's the last name of the person that she married. There's nothing relevant in Modern Music Monthly. I think I'm going to go to the family tree in a second to see if I can see Delvecchio. Oh yeah, I look up wedding singer to see if I find anything about her, but I don't. Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out maybe her husband. Because he's apparently part of the family. Because he's a blood relative. And so I'm going to look up that name that she provided, which was Del Vecchio. But Del Vecchio is not in there. So I'm like, of course, it's a pseudonym. We just don't know who Jane might have married. So the leads are dead for Jane at this point. And we're just going to have to accept what we know. I don't entirely recall what I'm talking about right now. I think I'm just reaffirming the knowledge that I have about what Clark's been up to. I really don't remember. A few fan sites for the band Dim and Diamond seem to mention that he used to make music with Clark Rafferty. They mentioned an album called These Times. So I'm going to look up These Times. Section of the magazine called... Oh, and then we see that it's the same thing as before. So yeah, I'm just basically talking about what I could possibly learn about Jane. And it seems like I've kind of hit a dead end at this point. And I have no idea who Clark's first wife is. That's another thing I'm trying to figure out, is maybe who that is. So now I think I'm going to be looking up Great Uncle's record label to see if maybe I can figure out something about him. I don't know who Great Uncle is, so I'm curious about that. I'm also curious about, the Lucky LaRues in an article. Yep, so it's the same thing. You've already read this one. We're doing a spider search, and it comes back to Jane. So it's all kind of in this cycle of, the same sources over and over again. So we've hit a bit of a dead end. And I'm like, maybe it's a Roottree Records thing? No dice. We don't know anything about the record label, really. We don't know anything about Clark's mother. We've kind of run out of information that we can really figure out for this branch. But I'm trying. We're going to look up Great Uncle. We don't find anything. And we don't know anything else about Carl's, mother or father. I think I'm at this point thinking it's not a woman anymore. For whatever reason, I was like, oh, well, Carl's last name is Roottree, so it's likely that that's his father, not his mother. So I remove him from there. And now I think we are considering how to move on, and that's to identify the top 5 of the first generation of Roottree children. And so I'm now pivoting to 5-piece. It's a miracle, a modern candy for a modern society. Roottree's 5 pieces contain 5 different maple infused flavors. The Roottrees are a proud family business, and our flavors are inspired by our children. G is for grape, E is for elderberry, C is for cinnamon extract, M is for melon, and introducing M for miracle berry. Miracle berry is a burst of beautiful blossoming blended berries. Try today. So I'm thinking, all right, so this is likely an indication to the first letter of all of the first generation's names. So we have G, E, C, E, M, and M. So I'm going to write these down. So yep, we count to see that there are, or maybe I don't, but You found this advertisement in the Sweet History of Candy Volume 2, and I'm thinking, ooh, we need to look that up, by Charles Lee. It's from 1928, 6 years after the debut of 5 Pieces. It states that the flavors are inspired by their children, and the order is grape, elderberry, cinnamon extract, melon, and the newest flavor, miracle berry. So we're going to put this note in, and now I'm going to order them, where G is equal to grape, E is equal to elderberry, C is equal, or CE rather, is equal to cinnamon extract, M is equal to melon, and I'm thinking, oh wait, M1 because of miracle berry, because they both start with M, and then I go, oh, no. Of course, it's M, and MB is equal to miracle berry. And here we have the first 5 root trees, the first generation of children. I don't know what I'm talking about right now. But we do see that we have indeed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Starting from G. So I'm going to look up Roottree. I'm going to see that the G names are Gwendolyn or Gwen. So we've got 2 options for this one. Next, we are going to look to see what E names we have. We have Elias. And I say, all right, it's probably Elias Jr., since that's the most likely immediate, child's name. We're looking up CE, which is Clancy Edward. Now we're going to be looking up M's. And I see that the M's are Margalite and Miracle. And since there's Miracle Jr., Miracle the third, it's likely that Margalite is the M and Miracle is the 5th. So we've identified the 5 names of the first generation of Rootrees. And I'm feeling extremely confident about these decisions. The only one that I'm not certain about is Gwen, because it could be Gwendolyn or Gwen. We don't have information as to whom that might be yet. Clancy Edwards, we're feeling very confident about because of Carl's name, and the fact that, this is the central branch, and this is probably where we want to pursue first. So, though I have, established the first 5, the people that I want to focus on the most is that central core family, because I think that's where most of my knowledge is going to derive. Next, we're going to look at the Business Watch. Elias Roottree was voted Watchman of the Year by Business Watch in 1936. A painting of him appears on the cover. The magazine says he was voted Watchman of the Year specifically to recognize the global rollout of 5 Pieces. So the article is a timeline of 5 Pieces. In 1908, Elias forms the Roottree Company after marrying his wife, who inherited a maple farm. During the period before 5 Pieces, the company is barely profitable. In 1909, Elias has a daughter, the first of the 5 children, 4 more to follow, leading to. In 1922, Elias invents 5 Pieces. Each of the 5 flavors is chosen based on the initials of his 5 children, 1 flavor per child. In 1924, 5 Pieces are first sold in some Pittsburgh markets. I don't know what I'm saying right now. In 1926, 5 Pieces are rolled out to all of New England. In 1928, the new recipe and flavor is finalized, and the candy begins nationwide distribution in department stores and shops everywhere. In 1935, the Roottree Candy Company purchases every available maple farm in Pennsylvania in preparation for their global rollout. Also, in 1935, with the help of his son Elias Roottree Jr.'s architecture firm, I note that Elias is an architect, a new industrialized factory and warehouse are built in Butler County. In 1936, production is tripled and worldwide distribution begins. So we're going to note that Elias is an architect. I accidentally ascribe it to Clancy. There is also a What Next section that claims Elias is going to pivot to ensuring his company's legacy and the Roottree Candy Company remains a family business. He plans to do this with the Clancy Trust. And I go, oh, oops, he's not the architect Elias is. Clancy is the one that's going to be establishing the Clancy Trust, which we are, I think, going to look up next. I haven't read this part. So now we're going to search for the Clancy Trust. The pronounced Clancy Trust is a highly unusual corporate arrangement named after Clancy Edward Roottree, who was Elias's son and the Roottree Candy Company's head lawyer, which I note, at that time. Due to its unique nature, it's often brought up in online discussions about financial matters and inheritances as an oddity. So I'm going to ascribe him the job of lawyer. The company mandates that a fixed percentage of its profits are split every quarter among bank accounts representing each direct blood relative of Elias and Gwyneth. An account is created for each blood relative at birth and first accessible when they reach 18. The actual numbers have never been fully disclosed to the public due to the ever-increasing success of the company is a significant amount of money. I'm reading faster than I am in the past. Hopefully it's parsable. I'm sorry if it's kind of hard to follow. The company mandates that a fixed percentage... Oh, wait, no, I've already read it. The Clancy Trust is known for being essentially impossible to get around due to its many checks and balances written into it. Still, there have been a few situations in which family members have tried to forcibly remove another member from the trust. More details online are pretty vague since the matters are handled internally. The only information you discover is from a university law school where apparently they had a guest lecturer talk about the Roottrees versus RR in 1994. Which I note. While looking into the Clancy Trust, you often find the mentions to the 5-piece guarantee, which went into effect at the same time. So I'm copying this to search later because I'm interested to pursue the 5-piece guarantee next. And I'm actually going to create a little page for searches that I want to do. Kind of like a task list. So the first thing I'm going to do is look up the 5-piece guarantee. The 5-piece guarantee, in combination with the Clancy Trust, was Elias Rootree's attempt to ensure that the Roottree Candy Company would remain a family business for eternity. In isolation, it is somewhat baffling. The yearly salary of Rootree's president is always locked to the price of a single pack of 5 pieces. When the 5-piece guarantee went into effect, this was 25 cents a year. Now it's closer to $4. Combined with the Clancy Trust, however, it makes a bit more sense. Elias wanted to ensure that only his direct relatives could afford to be president, and he knew that because their passive income was tied to the profits of the company, they would have a vested interest in keeping the company's profitable and successful as possible. Whether or not this was a smart or successful decision is widely debated online and in person by economic enthusiasts of all levels of expertise. So we're learning a little bit of the corporate structure and the way that the Roottree Candy Company disperses its money. So we're going to look to see if it's in Business Watch. I figured, well, if economics or economists want to talk about it, maybe they would have an article in there. But no dice. So now we're going to look up the Rootrees versus RR. And then I noticed, oh my god, wait. I can put emojis in my notes. And the emoji window pops up. You can't actually see it because it's not native to the game. It's my actual desktop that has the emote list. And then I put a little emote in my notes. And it's a cute little happy face, and I thought that was so cute. So now we're going to look up the court case. You find very few details about this particular incident with regards to the Clancy Trust. A student that attended the lecture wrote about it wrote the following on a legal oddities website. From what you can tell, RR attempted unsuccessfully to remove a fellow family member from the trust. It was said that RR attempted 2 arguments. First, the person in question was born out of wedlock, and second, they committed a significant crime against a fellow family member. Still, due to the ironclad wording of the Clancy Trust, it was impossible to remove any direct descendant of Elias Roottree without completely dismissing the trust. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe this is it, because it's this like quarantined, string where there's this divorce and something strange happened as a result of this divorce, where there's like this kind of disownment, right? Like you can see that there's no connection to the family bloodline aside from just being a direct blood relative. So I'm thinking that it's likely that RR is somebody in that generation. But we don't have any information as to whom RR might be as of yet. But I am convinced that it's likely connected to that person. So now I'm thinking, all right, it's time to look to see what notables we have. And red Roottree is the first one that I see. RR, my goodness, that has to be something. So my guess is that this is RR, and I look up red, find no one, Roottree, and look for R names, and I notice that there is a Robert and a Ronald. And I'm thinking, maybe, I remember saying this distinctly, maybe it's Ronald because of the association with Ronald McDonald and how Ronald is red? A very tenuous argument, but one that I also don't commit to. But we are going to look up red Roottree and see what we can find. We also note that the stars do not include any of the first generation. It's only the next generation that the stars are there, and the subsequent generations, aside, of course, from the matron and patron of the family. So because Gwyn has a star associated with her, I'm able to deduce that Gwendolyn is likely the name of the firstborn first generation. Don't really remember what I'm talking about here. I genuinely don't recall. But probably re-emphasizing that I want to figure out the main, like, family line, and then I will try and find out the red one. So I look up Clancy, and it's the same note about the Clancy Trust. I'm just trying to figure out a little bit more information about Clancy before I dive into the star names, because I'm thinking, all right, well, the star names are information that I can easily figure out, right? Like, I want to see if I can determine information about more difficult family members before I start utilizing the list of notable names. Why? I don't know. It's just like a compulsion of mine to not necessarily need to do this first. But then I'm like, okay, well, I don't have a lot of leads at this point. What else could I do? I noticed that there is a guardian ship thing, but it's the only one that I saw, or seen rather. I'm really focused on this star. I don't remember why. I think because I'm convinced that that might be red. So now I'm looking up red Roottree. You find information on a website about strange historical facts. Aloysius Herring Roottree, aka Red, was an appointed judge and a politician who earned his name ironically because he was the ambassador to Ireland for only about 6 days. I'm struggling to pronounce his first name. He served what some people contend is the shortest term in history. A few days after he was appointed, he was heard disparaging his position and the Irish people. He then tried to run for state senate. He claimed to be related to the Roottree Candy Company in a newspaper ad, but it came out that the last name was merely coincidence and he was defeated in a landslide. So now I'm going to look up this name. And it is the same information. So we have a dead end when it comes to this guy. We don't find anything about the ambassador to Ireland. But we are interested to see if we can figure out what newspaper ad, or maybe anything about the election. But it does not seem like we have a lot of information on Red at this point. But I'm like, man, this has got to be him, right? That star is likely red. That's just where my head is at this point. I'm rereading what the argument was, is that it was about somebody who was born out of wedlock and that they committed a crime. So I'm looking for people who might be bastards or might be unlinked. But then I note, oh, there's a red herring next to his name. I don't know if I've like made the connection yet at this point that it's quite literally red herring. But I do at some point. I don't think I've quite clued in that it isn't a star and that it's a herring, and I haven't counted the number of stars yet. But I am trying to look to see if I can like make some deductions. I don't know why I decide that it's Gwyn Roottree here. I literally don't remember. I'm sure I had a rationale. But I do know that Gwyn is on my list. So that is probably why I'm looking up her name next. Yeah, so Gwyn with 2 N's. You find some information on a website about old films that are not yet available on VHS. The site is not very well organized and the search is broken, but you can get to individual pages from your search engine. Gwyn Roottree is a somewhat well-known actress who was active in the 1950s. She often appeared in tabloids, especially around the time of her highly publicized divorce. I note this. The divorcee. The only person that we have in this list with stars that has a divorce. So I'm like, it's not Gwyn. We don't know who this is. Now we know that who I originally thought was Red actually is Gwyn. We're also like, oh wait, Rafferty. And I'm thinking, okay, it could be Chris or Jacob. I don't actually know quite yet. So now we're going to give this to her. We're going to say that this is Gwyn Roottree. And that I still do not know anything else about who Red might be. Yeah, I'm looking up the name that they give, Aloysius or something like that, and I don't find him. I'm like, well, I don't know where Red goes anymore. And she's an actress. Her biggest role was the minor hit movie Guys Like Us. She left Hollywood after the flop of Christmas Mission. There's a widely circulated picture of Gwyn from behind the scenes of her movies, which you've added to your evidence. So now I'm going to add the search terms Guys Like Us and Christmas Mission. Did you know trivia? Gwyn was the granddaughter of Elias Roottree, the founder of the Roottree candy. She shouldn't have been named Roottree, but her father took her mother's famous name, which was quite rare in those days. Which indicates that we're probably right about, her mother's name, which is Margolite. And it explains why her last name is Roottree. So this kind of obscures who Margolite's husband is, because it could be anybody's surname. We look at the picture and we see Gwyn. This is a photo of a widely circulated photo of Gwyn Roottree. So we're going to give that to her. I don't know what I'm talking about. I genuinely don't know. I don't remember what knowledge I have suddenly gained based off of, I think, the fact that she's blonde or something. I feel like I'm making a wild deduction here that I don't think matters at all. I wish I remembered. I wish I hadn't turned off my mic, but oh well, what can you do? We don't know anything about her husband yet. Gwyn Roottree is on the notable Roottrees list. She's marked with a star, which we know. So now I'm going to look up Guys Like Us. You find some information. It's the same header as before. Guys Like Us is a 1953 film in which two secretaries cut their hair short and pose as businessmen to get ahead in life until one of them falls in love with their client and hilarity ensues. Starring Gwyn Roottree, Leslie Florence, and Harrison Lane. The title is a play on words, as it can be read that two women are men similar to other men, or that men are fond of them. And so I'm going to write down Leslie Florence and Harrison Lane. And I look up both of their names. Are either of them possibly her spouse? Did she fall in love with her co-star? And it does not appear to be so. But I still need to look up their names to see what else they have been in. So we look up Leslie Florence and Harrison Lane. Well, I write down that I need to look up those two. I struggled to read the trivia, which I also struggled to read in this this recording. It can be read that the two women are men similar to other men, or that the men are fond of them. All right, I read it perfectly that time. Leslie Florence was Gwen Rootree's co-star in Guys Like Us. Not much relevant information, as she does not have any additional credits on the site. So, dead end. Harrison Lane is next. Harrison Lane was a television actor with a major role in Guys Like Us and some other films. His largest role before Guys Like Us was as the villain in the first season of Western Frontiers. Due to the popularity of Guys Like Us, the studio brought Lane back to play the villain's twin brother, this time as a hero joining the protagonist. So I write down Western Frontiers before I read the next paragraph, which says, Western Frontiers has no connection to the Roottrees. Harrison Lane seems to be dead. Harrison Lane married his high school sweetheart after they reunited at a movie premiere. So no leads with Harrison Lane either. So I get rid of Western Frontiers as a search option. So I'm back to not having anything to search. We've learned a little bit about Gwen, but not a whole lot. Oh, right. We do look up Christmas Mission. It's on a page called Flops. It was a war movie about World War I released in 1955 that received poor reviews and lost the studio money. Gwen Roottree has the role of a soldier's wife who wrote him letters from home. You find no additional relevant information. The movie was marketed as an incredible true story, but no record of the events happening has ever been found. So, again, dead end. Nothing. And I'm thinking, fuck, I really wish that there was like a periodical that had like cinema information in it, not just music, which is the only one that we found so far. We don't have a periodical for that yet. I think I'm thinking about confirmation at this point. I'm thinking about, do I want to lock in this knowledge? But I decide against it. So now we're going to look up Jim. We've already figured out stuff about him. Lauren Roottree, we don't know anything about. And Miracle, we don't know anything about, except that we know that Miracle is one of the first. I'm going to give Miracle Jr. to that generation. And I'm going to give Lauren, the unknown female, that Clark's mother, essentially. Because that's the only star left. And my deduction is that it's more likely that Miracle Jr. is the son of Miracle. And Lauren, as the only star left, is going to be the final name. And then I note that, oh, Red is a red herring. He's not one of the stars on the family tree. And I really love that his name is quite literally Red Herring. And that's the indication that's been put in front of his name. So I'm just going through the list, noting that I have everybody except for Lauren and Miracle. So Lauren Roottree is the last star on the family tree. Because there's no other stars, and that's the last one that I don't have a name for. So now we know that this is Lauren Roottree. And now we've managed to get all of the notable names, at least on the board. With the exception of Red, we still don't quite know who Red is going to be. Not really sure what I'm saying at this point. I guess I'm discussing about Lauren's father, Clancy. But now I'm going to look up Lauren. Author Lauren Roottree, a distant relative of the Roottree sisters, is known... I put author. is known for her book A Life Between Wars, which I'm going to write down. According to a website about famous authors, in the early 1960s, Lauren released a few romance novels under her married name, Lauren Rafferty, to little fanfare, which we knew that was her last name. When her publisher learned she had been keeping diaries about her famous family, they insisted she release them under her original name, Lauren Roottree, to take advantage of her family's notoriety. I'm just noting that, obviously, it's Rafferty. That is the person that she marries, but we don't know if it's Chris or the other guy's name. So we're going to add that to our list of things to search, just to see if maybe we can figure out if there's like knowledge about her marriage. This selection of diary entries was released in 1965 as A Life Between Wars spans from the untimely death of her husband in World War II to coping with the post-World War as a young widow and mother, as well as her perspective on changing times and socialites all the way through the war into Vietnam. While the content is not considered particularly relevant to modern audiences, it has found a new life as an exercise in high school English classes to show an evolution in writing style and for a look into life in previous generations. After the success of her diaries, her publisher re-released her romance novels under the name Lauren Roottree. This included Romance in Court, which gained popularity. She followed the re-release up by writing 2 new sequels, creating what fans referred to as the Court Jester series. You find no recent details about Lauren, though she is listed as retired. So we're going to note her 2 books, Romance in Court and the Court Jester series. I also note that she has an occupation as retired, and I'm curious if that is a role. I'm supposed to give the most recent job that they've had, and if retired is an occupation, that will be the one that I give. And I note that there is not a retired option, so it is author. We're gonna keep that there. Now we're going to use the public library search to see if we can find Lauren's books. And we're going to start with A Life Between Wars. And it's going to pay off big. It seems you've hit the jackpot here. This book occasionally is taught in high schools. You find a hardcover edition for students that has full-page, high-quality pictures in it. A summary of the contents of the book, photos, as well as some particularly relevant entries from the diary have been added to your evidence. And it is going crazy. We're printing a shit ton here. This is my big break. We're going to look up Romance in Court, a romance novel by Lauren Roottree. The about author blurb mentions she had the inspiration from her brother Clancy's lectures on Middle Ages. So Clancy, one of her brothers, is a lecturer, and we don't quite know what that means yet. So we're going to note... oh, yeah, I see that I didn't save the note, so I saved that there, and then I go back to the previous tab. And then I realize I haven't monologued yet. So I decide that it's time to monologue. Like a bloodhound, sniffing at the root of the family tree, I've already determined one of the many branches shading this untended lawn. Clark Rafferty. Quite the lover. At a tete-a-tete, which is not what I am supposed to do. I think it's a menage a trois with 2 of the LaRues. Scandal. Scandal already aflame. I delete. I should just read it after I've written it. It seems the family is no stranger to scandal. I think it's at this point that oh, maybe not yet. He may have... He may have nailed 2 of the LaRue sisters, but I haven't nailed down quite yet their histories. Time will tell, I suppose. Because so far, no one else is talking. Got a lead on some of the other root trees all the way at the top. 5 pieces. 5 clues. 5 names. And then I'm trying to think of like what it is. It's a hat trick. I was thinking of like, what the hell is a hat trick? And I could not. And then that is when I realize my mic has been off for an hour. And I am devastated. I immediately stop because what I end up doing is I forcibly close the computer program, hoping that maybe it hasn't saved and I can just repeat all of the shit that I did the last hour and, you know, explain that I had already done it. But no dice. It is locked in. Hopefully this recording over my gameplay was entertaining. Hopefully it captured some of the original experience that I had. Hopefully it was fun. I assure you the rest of the episodes do have my mic. You will not have to deal with this again because I'm very vigilant about making sure it works. Anyway, thank you so very much for watching. I really am enjoying playing it, and I'll see you in the next one.